Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 465, June the 18th, 2018, Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, on Sunday morning, Devin Nunes was on Maria Bartiromo, and he was telling her about the meeting that they had the previous Friday. He was saying that that meeting involved Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, Rodentstein, Devin Nunes himself, Trey Gowdy, Bob Goodlatte, and Paul Ryan. And the purpose of the meeting was to inform Rodentstein and No Shit Sherlock Christopher Ray that if they did not comply with all the documents that have been under subpoena for a very long time, this coming week, they want them all, if they don't turn them over, Paul Ryan says he is going to go ahead and move for floor action, meaning a vote for contempt. Now, since you have Paul Ryan, who, thankfully, because of pressure from you, that's right, pressure being put on by people calling and writing and emailing their congressmen, letting them know they're not happy about this sham that's going on. Not very happy with Mr. Rodentstein or No Shit Sherlock Christopher Ray and the way that they're behaving. A lot of people are frustrated, and they've had it. And Nunes, he was there a long time ago. So now they brought enough pressure on Paul Ryan. And Paul Ryan's feeling the heat. And quite honestly, they've got Paul Ryan backed in a corner. For the past 3 months, he said, hey, when he got involved and said, yeah, well, let me get involved and I'm sure I can work it out. And then, of course, they got the president with Kelly, and they went in there with Ryan and Kelly, and they said, look, these guys have a job to do. They got to subpoena these documents. They shouldn't have to subpoena them. They should ask for them. You should turn them over. They're giving you the reason why they need them. They're giving you specifics of what they need. You need to comply. Ryan thought that he could just go in there and throw his weight around, and that would work, along with John Kelly. They found out it did not work. Rodentstein doesn't care. Christopher No Sherlock Ray does not care. As far as they're concerned, they're above having to listen to Congress. They worship at the altar of the deep state and the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of I'm with her. But they found out on this past Friday that actually the way it does actually work is the Congress does have oversight, and they also have other things that they can do when you do not comply. And it looks like they have 1 week to produce all the subpoenaed documents, whereas Devin Nunes stated on Maria Bartiromo's show, if they don't come off of it this week, that's it. There will be hell to pay. So now you got Ryan backing it. That means that if Ryan is backing it, that they can get the 218 votes. Because Paul Ryan has a staff and a whip that work for him, and he can say, hey, I need 218 votes. Go get them. And they'll go get the 218 votes. They'll vote, and they will hold at least Rodentstein. I'm not sure about No Shit Sherlock Christopher Ray, whether or not he's included, but he was in the meeting. But it appears that they're prepared to hold contempt charges against Rodentstein if he does not comply this week with all the documents under subpoena. And they will move ahead to impeachment if they have to. Usually you don't have to. Usually once you get that many votes signed up for contempt, that will usually cause that bureaucrat to step down. Now, in the case of Eric Holder, that did not work. They did get contempt charges against him in a floor vote, but he didn't step down, and they did not push it to move to impeachment. In this case, it will be interesting to see whether or not Rodentstein produces the documents, and if he does not, will they go ahead with a floor vote? I think they will go ahead with a floor vote and see if contempt will get the job done. And if that doesn't get the job done, if that doesn't force Rodentstein to produce documents or step down, then we'll see if they'll go all the way to impeachment. And they just might under the circumstances. We'll watch this very closely over the next few days. They have until the end of the week. Danny Williams has called on the Rotten Reverend's accused rapist husband, Slick Willie, William Jefferson Blythe Clinton, to take a paternity test. That's right, Danny Williams, and he posted a picture on his Twitter with his face next to Clinton's face Oh, there's quite the resemblance. He looks a lot more like Slick Willie than their satanic alleged offspring. What's her name? Chelsea Hubble. Danny Williams looks a lot more like Slick Willie than Chelsea does. Chelsea looks a lot like Webster Hubble. So Danny Williams on his Facebook has posted today that he wants Slick Willie to take the paternity test. Yes, indeed. Roger Stone. Wow, this is really surprising because, you see a lot of Roger Stone. I mean, he's everywhere. This thing's been going on for a very long time, but we're just learning today, or yesterday, I learned about it on Sunday, that Roger Stone, apparently within the past week or so, has gone to Devin Nunes's committee and has informed them that he, too, was approached by somebody offering to produce Clinton emails for money. And this individual was also like an intermediary and stating that he could get them from a former NSA contractor who, for the right amount of money, would be willing to produce the Hillary emails. Of course, he said the same thing that a lot of these people said is, I'm not interested. See ya. Now, this is very, very similar to the incident that was reported by Caputo, Michael Caputo. He was approached twice, once at the beginning of May, once at the end of May. And now we're learning from Roger Stone that he's just informed the Congress, the House Intelligence Committee, that he too was approached by someone offering him emails. I wonder why Roger Stone is just now coming out and telling us this now. Very interesting. I'm not saying I doubt him. I mean, he's probably telling the truth. But it's offense, that's for sure. In the case of Roger Stone, this is good offense. So we'll find out what comes out of that. But Nunes mentioned that on Bartiromo this morning. He didn't say it was Stone, but he said that someone just came to us within the last few days and told us that they too were approached by someone offering them Clinton emails for money. So we can assume he's talking about Roger Stone. Next, of course, we hear that Peter's been stroking us. His attorney has written a letter, which many of you have probably read. It's not a long letter, it's a short letter, but it's a letter to, I think, the Senate Judiciary Committee, where he's stating that they don't have to subpoena Peter's been stroking us. His attorney says he's willing to come and testify without a subpoena, and he doesn't need immunity, and he will not plead the Fifth. So what's going on here? Peter's been stroking us. Well, he's doing the exact same thing that all these other people are doing. He's trying to get out there and get some PR because everyone else is out there basically trying to cover their butts for their involvement, whether it's writing a book, going on a book tour, Clapper, whether it's and Comey, or whether it's doing interviews like Yates and Brennan or whatever. They're all using various tactics to try to get out there to try to cover for their crimes, but to get out there for the PR and that type of thing and some spin and stuff like that. Maybe they're trying to, I think in a lot of ways they think that that if they're out getting attacked all the time, that it could have some impact on a grand jury. If the grand jury is seated in D.C. and all this stuff is happening, they think maybe that they're out there getting beat up every day and there's no one out there defending them. So maybe Peter's been stroking us, sees this as a way to, he doesn't have a book out, he's not being asked to come on TV, or maybe he's not going on TV, whatever. Maybe he doesn't play well on TV. Maybe he feels more comfortable doing hearings with Congress. Whatever it is, this is just Strzok really trying to, get out there and put his case out there in the public and get some PR, some positive PR for his side of the equation. Now, why would he be willing to do this now? Well, because the IG report's out now. And so now the IG report is out, and he knows exactly what he can, what he has to admit to, and what he can deny. And the IG report left him a lot of room, a lot of wiggle room. So when they say, okay, Peter's been stroking us, what about that text about you saying that you're not going to let the president win, that you'll keep him from winning? In which case, Strzok will just say, oh, well, that was just a personal conversation between me and Lisa Page. It wasn't meant for public consumption. It wasn't serious. I was just talking, just saying stuff. It really didn't mean anything, not to be taken literally or seriously, and there was no action, nothing we were doing, blah, 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 blah. This is what he's going to say. And the only thing that he is going to comment on are things that are in the IG report, things about the Hillary Clinton email investigation. Remember, Peter Strzok was involved in all of it. He was involved in the email investigation. He was involved in the Trump-Russia. He was one of the people in that 6-agency task force set up by John Brennan. He was involved in the dossier, the FISA warrants. I mean, he's involved in all of it. But he's not going to answer questions about any of that stuff. He says that he will not plead the Fifth. Well, he's not going to plead the Fifth, but he is going to say to probably most of the questions that are asked of him, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot comment on that because of the ongoing investigation. There are ongoing investigations into the Trump-Russia or the Russia investigation or whatever. All that stuff is currently under investigation by Mueller, by the Congress, by God knows who else. So the only thing that Strzok is going to talk about is what is in the IG report and the email investigation. And now that it's out, he knows exactly what positions he has to take. He's read it. He's been advised by his attorney. When you're asked this, well, in the IG report it says this. This is your, because he's been essentially exonerated in the IG report. Hey, we can find no actual evidence that the bias, yeah, there was bias, but we can't see what the bias actually had any action behind it. We can't see that. That's what the IG report tries to get us to believe, despite the fact that all through the document, it's nothing but showing us that political bias affected lots of decisions of everything they were doing. But that's what this is. This is Peter Strzok trying to get a little PR on his side, and but he's not going to be able to comment on anything about the dossier, about Mr. Halper, about the the 6-agency task force, his dealings with the British intelligence. All that stuff is going to be off the table because it's all things that are ongoing investigations. He's not going to talk about that. This is going to be a spin job, and it's much ado about nothing. The only thing this will actually do is finally quell the rumor that he doesn't actually exist. By actually sitting there and people can see his face, well, okay, at least now we know there actually is a Peter Strzok, because a lot of people didn't even think he actually existed. But now that's going to be proven he does exist. But he's not going to say anything, nothing that we didn't learn in the IG report, and he's going to try to spin and tell us that all that stuff that we saw in the IG report was not meant to be taken literally, and there's really nothing to it. It's all being overblown. That is what he is going to tell us. Why don't you save us the save our time? Don't even bother. I wouldn't expect to get much out of Peter's been stroking us at this point. Anything close to the truth. Nothing but spin. Okay, let's move on. Yesterday I told you about Stormy Daniels now facing a second lawsuit for walking off stage in the middle of a show in Chicago. So she followed that up the next day by doing an interview with the Chicago Tribune, where she stated in that interview that she is a Republican. Saggy is a Republican. Here it gets better, and that she may run for president in 2020. Yeah. Well, Trump wanted to make America great again. She ripped off his slogan, and she's doing her Make America Horny Again. Maybe her presidential campaign can be an extension of her strip show in 2020, Make America Horny Again presidential tour that she can do. I don't know that she'll strip, and God help us if she does. We don't want her to strip. Keep her clothes on, Saggy. You don't, things have not, well, let's just, you know what I mean. She'd be better off to keep her clothes on, okay? I'll spare you the details. Okay, it's time for Dumbass of the Week. Well, this person for Dumbass of the Week is someone who's kind of been in the running before. And, every week I could give you the Rotten Reverend Clinton, Slick Willie. Every week they're both saying things could easily be qualified as Dumbass of the Week. Comey is an easy one. Nancy Pelosi's a dead ringer. I mean, you can, any quote, anytime the woman opens her mouth, she is Dumbass of the Week. But I wanted to give it to someone this week who's never had it before. And this person is well deserving. And it's unfortunate because I actually like this person as an actor. But quite honestly, he's a hardcore never Trumper. And he's suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. And he is going to be our Dumbass of the Week. And I'm talking about Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson. Okay, so Samuel Jackson tweeted out on Trump's birthday, quote, "Must have been a party at the White House. Mitch, Paul, Rudy, and others wearing knee pads and carrying these." Carrying these. And then he shows a picture below that says, "After Dick Mintz." Now, I didn't even know there was a such thing as After Dick Mintz. Maybe they're popular out in California, where Samuel Jackson hangs out. But here in these parts where I live, we don't have After Dick Mintz. I haven't seen any in the CVC. Haven't seen any in the local little pharmacy. Haven't seen any at the Kroger pharmacy. Haven't seen any at the grocery store. Haven't seen any at Walmart. Haven't seen any at Myers. Haven't seen any of these. I go to all these stores from time to time. Maybe, I don't know what section you would find those in, but I imagine the mint section, I guess. Maybe like where you're checking out the grocery aisle and they got all the crazy ass magazines where Samuel L. Jackson spends a lot of time being covered. And maybe in that section there you would find some After Dick Mintz. But I imagine that folks out there in West Hollywood and the sewer where Samuel L. Jackson spends a lot of his time, they probably can get them right on the street from street vendors, would be my guess. They probably have a need for that sort of thing out there. The After Dick Mints are probably well known up and down the streets of San Francisco. But here in these parts of the Midwest, I don't think we stock those After Dick Mints here. But anyhow, that you get the idea of what Samuel L. Jackson is implying. He would never suggest that about Obama. But let's go back and have a look at Samuel L. Jackson. We know he's a very, very good friend of Harvey Weinstein. I wonder if he and Harvey have ever shared a Dick Mint, an After Dick Mint. He stated once, after Obama won the election, that he voted for Obama because he was black. Okay. Of course, he admits to being a hardcore drug addict, although he claims he's clean now. He was a drug addict anyway. Back in 1969, Samuel L. Jackson and his fellow students held members of the Board of Trustees hostage, demanding reforms. Of course, he was charged with a felony. He, of course, was involved in the Black Power movement in the early 1970s, and the hardcore anti-gunner Samuel L. Jackson stated, regarding his involvement in the Black Power movement in the early 70s, that, quote, he was empowered by the movement, especially when they started buying guns. Of course, he lied about being a member of the Black Panthers, and he's recently been accused by Alec Baldwin of gay shaming, whatever that is. And he is in the process of being dropped by Capital One as a result of Baldwin's comments on Twitter, which Baldwin has now removed. Maybe he and Alec Baldwin will need to have a couple of those After Dick Mints when they have to make up. And I'm sure that'll be taken care of at some point in a club there in New York, somewhere underneath the stairs, where these people like that hang out. Samuel L. Jackson, Dumbass of the Week. Very, very gentle. Now, a lot of you people are hearing about two specific pages in the IG report. A lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are talking about page 294 in the IG report and page 276. Now, I had to skip ahead because I was only on page 120 something. So I skipped ahead and I read from page like 280 to page 300. So I could kind of get the before and after. Because if you just start on 294 or 276, you know, it's kind of hard to have the context of what the hell they're talking about. Because, you know, they drop a lot of names. not necessarily names, but titles. And they all got these big titles. It gets confusing, this attorney, associate attorney, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. I wish I would just use names. You could keep track of it, but they purposely do not use names. They use titles. Okay, and that needs to be fixed, by the way. Someone needs to redo the IG report with all the names plugged in. It's the same thing as redacting almost. Someone's going to have to go research and find out who all those people are and get their names. But anyway, the issue is page 294 and 276. And why is everybody talking about it? Because these are 2 pages of which there are, I understand, 7 different references totally in the IG report that have some reference to these emails on Anthony, the laptop of Anthony's Weiner having things other than Anthony Weiner texting minors. In other words, there are apparently thousands and thousands of emails of the Clinton Foundation, of Hillary's State Department emails, and maybe some other things which are not specified. So now let's go back first to put this into context of a story that was published on November the 2nd of 2016. That was a long time ago, almost 2 years ago. That story was a True Pundit story that they did where they stated that, according to their sources, New York police detectives, prosecutors, had discovered evidence on the Weiner laptop, enough to put Hillary and her crew away for life. Hillary, her subordinates, and selected officials were implicated. Documents that were far more damaging than mishandled classified information. Documents that show money laundering, child exploitation, sex crimes with minors, perjury, pay to play, Clinton Foundation, obstruction of justice, and other felony crimes. The True Pundit, of course, took a lot of heat after they wrote that story, but no one ever filed a lawsuit against them. That tells you a lot. So the True Pundit stuck with their story, stuck with their sources, even after getting viciously attacked. But now the IG report has basically vindicated them. Unfortunately, again, with everything else in the IG report, IG Horowitz, the custodian, stopped short of actually hitting the target. He dances around the target and then he walks away. So now that we have that in context, and we know that the True Pundit back in November of 2016 had sources within the New York field office, whether, I don't know who the sources were, whether they were the detectives themselves, prosecutors, I'm not sure, but they're pretty confident their sources laying out all these things that were on that computer. Now, let's move to page 294 of the Inspector General Horowitz report, the custodian. So if you look at the subject line and the headline on this particular FBI document from the IG, you will see that it is primarily an interview with IG Horowitz and this FBI agent named Coleman. Coleman, C-O-L-E-M-A-N. And it was this Coleman, FBI agent Coleman, who briefed Comey on the Weiner laptop. So if you looked at the subject on this particular document, it says, subject, Anthony Weiner. Then it goes down to the next line and says, Weiner, sexually explicit, texting 15-year-old. Goes down to the next line as 9/26, initial analysis of laptop. Thousands of emails. Hillary Clinton and Foundation, crimes against children. This is the title of the document. Then it goes on, and we learn a couple things as we read through this. And you can read it for yourself if you like. It's kind of wordy. It's kind of long. I'm just going to try to give you a snapshot of what they're talking about here and how it relates to the True Pundit story and a lot of things a lot of people allege about what may be on those on those part of those emails on the Weiner laptop. So Coleman briefed Comey on the report. Comey, when asked by the IG, says he can't remember the briefing. That briefing occurred on October the 4th, 2016, and Comey was able to confirm the briefing only because he says it was on his calendar. That meeting occurred, it was scheduled for 9:30 in the morning on October 4th, 2016, when Coleman briefed Comey on the Weiner laptop. Briefed him on the Weiner laptop. Now, the FBI tech that examined the Weiner laptop documents came to a page that was marked HRC, sensitive but not classified, at which point this particular FBI technical person realized that he could go no farther, because he had now gotten to some things that he was not authorized to look at, and that was these pages that had written in magic marker, handwritten in magic marker, HRC, sensitive but not classified. So he goes to his supervisor and he says, "Hey, I'm going through the contents of this Weiner laptop. There's things here that I cannot look at." His supervisor advises him, "Yeah, I can't look at them either." So now let's go to page 276. So basically what we learned from that is Comey was briefed on the contents of the Weiner laptop. He knows that there were things on the Weiner laptop in addition to the text between Anthony's Weiner and Miner's. There were many, many emails of the Clinton Foundation, the State Department, and some other emails that are not specifically identified. So now we go to page 276 of the IG report. And this is on the reporting of the Clinton-related emails to the Southern District of New York. So on September the 27th, 2016, a key date, the case agent began advising 2 U.S. attorneys assigned to the Weiner case about what he was finding in the Weiner laptop. He had discovered Huma emails, and at that point, he needed to acquire a new protocol, because the original warrant was a warrant specifically to look at things on Weiner's laptop that were related to Weiner texting minors. So I guess because what happened is, if you read through this, you'll see that they had to go through a lot of channels, talk to quite a few different people to find out from this FBI agent. He needed to know, can we go any farther? Can we look at this stuff? This State Department, Clinton emails, Clinton Foundation, God knows what these other emails were other than the Weiner stuff. And so they had to wait for a response. They finally get a response, and the response is, no, you cannot go look at that stuff. Our warrant specifically says we're looking at Weiner-related stuff, him texting minors. Anything having to do with Huma, even if it's a conversation between her and her husband, is not fair game. Subpoena doesn't cover that. Hillary Clinton emails does not cover that. State Department, Clinton Foundation, none of these things fall within the guidelines of the warrant. So, at that point, they were not able to move forward, and the case agent was told that he could only look at Weiner's stuff relating to sexual exploitation of children, enticement, and obscenity. All other emails related to Huma and Clinton were to be sequestered and not reviewed at this time. At that time, he noted 141,000 emails pertinent to the Clinton email investigation. So that's probably what would have been related to James Comey. So he wouldn't have got the specifics in that briefing about what those emails said about the Clinton Foundation, the Pay for Play, State Department, and these other things. He was only told that they were there. Now, at some point, Comey, in order for them to get into these emails, which is the ones that were in question a week before the election, they must have had to have gotten a subpoena that would allow them to look at specifically the emails about, I would assume, the Clinton Foundation and the State Department. That's my assumption. Probably not anything other than that. That would be my guess. I'm just guessing now, because Horowitz is not clear about this point. he doesn't tie it up. He leaves it as another loose end hanging in the air. So then this Paul Abate, Abbate, who was the ADIC at the Washington field office, informed the principals, and this Paul Abate is obviously a boss of this FBI agent who apparently went to him and said, hey, we can't look at this stuff. Let's find out if we can look at this stuff. They find out then they can't look at this stuff. And then they have a meeting. And I guess it's headed up by this Paul Abate, and he's about to brief all of these individuals on the revelations of what they found in the Weiner laptop. Not the specifics that they weren't allowed to go in and look at, but just the fact that there were Clinton Foundation, State Department, and other types of emails other than the Weiner stuff. So he, according to the description by Paul Abate of this meeting with the principals, he described it as a moment of dropping a bomb in the middle of the meeting, stating that everybody realized the significance of this potential trove of information. So he's saying he advised them all, hey, here's what we got, and they were all, it was a bombshell moment, and they all realized the potential issues with all these emails dealing with the State Department, the Clinton Foundation, and all the rest. They understood exactly what it was that they were dealing with at this point. And if you read through the rest of the next 5 or 10 pages, you can see, or not 5 or 10, but probably 2 pages, you can see where there's a lot of chaos going on as they're trying to figure out exactly what to do about all this. So this meeting would have included the FBI director, the deputy director, McCabe, the general counsel, and all the executive assistant directors and the ADICs of the New York, Los Angeles, and Washington field offices. Now, Comey testified to the IG on September 28th that he was not present at that meeting. After the meeting, McCabe told Sweeney, who was another one of these ADICs, I'm not sure which one, but he was an ADIC from either New York, LA, or Washington. McCabe told this guy Sweeney that he was headed to Quantico. So right after McCabe is in this meeting and briefed on this, he's like, oh shit. And he decided he's headed to Quantico, which is where they actually, the lab is, the FBI lab, where they actually get in there and essentially mirror the hard drive and get everything from the hard drive. So obviously McCabe was all over it. We know that this indeed did happen because McCabe did arrive at Quantico at around 6 o'clock p.m. on that particular evening. Should be noted that Priestep was also in attendance at this meeting. Comey says he wasn't there. Priestep was there. On September the 28th, Sweeney called criminal EAD Randy Coleman of the National Security Branch, Mike Steinbeck, and Bill Priestap with updates on the Weiner laptop. And he said at that time they were processing 347,000 emails. So the IG pretty much leaves it, but as far as we can tell, at this state of the game, we can assume that Comey did get a warrant there about a week before the election. Did get a warrant to look at those State Department and Clinton Foundation emails. That's the only thing we can conclude from this. He wouldn't have had any interest in for his role, he wouldn't have any interest in the Weiner stuff, and the other stuff that they don't specifically identify. We hear there's nothing. It's just nothing. We only learn that stuff is there, but Horowitz never digs into it. So my guess is that Horowitz has never seen any of these emails. That's just my guess on the Weiner laptop. I'm guessing he's never seen this stuff. This is just what he's been told when he was interviewing these individuals. So it certainly brings back an old issue, but we still don't have a question to what the hell is on the Weiner laptop. What is on the Weiner laptop? Have they actually looked at all the emails? Clinton Foundation, State Department, was that smoked and covered up as well? Someone needs to relook at that stuff again, and those other emails that they don't specifically identify need to be specifically identified. I think you know where that goes. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have a good night. Goodbye.